I wish I knew.
Next one, this also made my board. Treat yourself like someone you're responsible for. Okay. And I'll, quote this one. I know he's divisive. Once again, this is Jordan Peterson quote.
Wow.
Yeah. But like I said, try and separate the quote from the persona on this one.
Okay.
Because he when he's in his bag, he's good. When he's talking about global warming, maybe let's not take what a Canadian psychologist has to say about it with too much weight. But I am going to read from this one because I really kind of went down to one of the big things that's helped me learn about myself this year is I've always had a people-pleasing, like, fixer mentality. Mm-hmm. And I guess what I found out is how that's problematic, not virtuous. Because you would think, like, people-pleasing sounds like a good thing if you take it literally. You're pleasing other people. The problem comes when you realize that not everyone is wired that way. So, like, ultimately, you find yourself sacrificing more of yourself as you prioritize the happiness of those around you. Once again, sounds good for them, right? But who doesn't want someone prioritizing them? Turns out a lot of people actually don't want you prioritizing them. At the end of the day, we as individuals are responsible for our own emotional state. And as much as it's hard for me to admit, prioritizing someone over yourself in the hopes that they will reciprocate that same level of prioritization for you is manipulative.
Okay.
Being a martyr for those around you does not build mutual respect, which I do believe is the intention behind sacrificial behavior. But instead it builds resentment for the person who feels underappreciated, the people pleaser, but also for the person who feels manipulated to reciprocate. So basically, you focus on satisfying yourself, and coincidentally, you will attract other people who are in a similar emotional state. Fixing someone by sacrificing your own comfort creates a vertical relationship with them where they feel beholden to you, not out of desire, but out of expectation. Okay. That's the big, long dodge. It took me, I heard that quote beginning of the year, but it took like 6 months for me to fully fucking with more compounding lessons, fully realize what that kind of means.
All right, so let's walk through that. Let's expand on that. The one part of it is always like creating those vertical and horizontal dynamics. Mm-hmm. When you what's the idea? Whenever you are people pleasing somebody, you're creating that they're beholden to you.
You're creating a hierarchy.
Yeah, and you don't want that. You certainly don't.
Even
want
if you're
that.
not doing it intentionally, because trust me, as someone who's been a lifelong people pleaser, the idea is to satisfy that person.
Yeah.
But I knew this lesson too, because deep down, I've always hated when people do that shit to me growing up, where someone does something, unsolicited help.
Yeah, and
someone helps you, I had that. Maybe I was I didn't want to do it today. I was going to do it tomorrow, but then they go do it for you. And I was like, well, now I kind of feel fucking guilty.
Yeah. I had that. I got
that. And it's even if they don't want anything from it, because some people, their love language is helping people. Mm-hmm. That's a real thing. So it's but there's a distinction, I think, where you have a line of people pleasing is the toxic version of just helping, but some people take it too far, because I think people pleasing. I mentioned the word martyr. So when you look at the Jungian psychology of the archetypes, mm-hmm. the one is the people who sacrifice, to help you. I forget what the actual term is for it. It's the healer or the helper, they call it. Okay. Every archetype has the quality, but then it has their shadow side. The shadow side of the healer is the martyr, and a martyr is someone who is bitter and resentful. So the people I know, a lot of people in my life who would do those things, who are quick to help, do bend over backwards, do everything for you, say they don't need anything,
but they're equally as.
But when the chips are down and they have a bad day, they're the kind of person who explodes and is I do all this shit for everyone, and no one ever does anything fucking for me. And I caught myself doing that, and I was just mortified. I'm doing that.
Yeah.
I'm doing that thing where I feel because I do sacrifice so much for certain people in my life, I'm good. I can keep it contained for a very long time. But then we get in a fight, and I feel then it's that bitterness and that resentment that has been way down here, mm-hmm. comes to the top. And it's oh, that's not okay. Now, I can have all my issues with that person, but it's still not okay for me to explode in that way and feel like, oh, you fucking owe me.
Yeah, because no one asked you to do these things. You did.
Even if they kind of did ask you, it's insinuated
they kinda
sometimes. But it's like I have the power to set boundaries and say no. That's too. You're asking too much.
Yeah, is the point of when someone does something for you, like unsolicited, someone does something for you, and then they weaponize it.
That's kind of when that
The same thing is just like
it's weaponizing the people. People pleasing comes
hey,
from the place of insecurity.
hey, I did this for you. You owe me now. It's like, no.
Even if you're not doing it intentionally, I think a lot of it came down. So, like for me in a situation, it was in a giver/taker relationship, and it's just the idea that eventually, like in my head, it's like they're eventually going to stop just taking, and they're going to eventually. I don't have a problem giving, but at some point, this has to get reciprocated, right?
You would think.
So it's like I didn't want to be toxic about it, but it's like, years go by and it's like this is a very one-sided relationship. And it's like this has to go the other way at some point. And then when it starts getting really downhill, then it's like, well, fuck it. I'm pissed. This is like a sunken cost fallacy. Like I've put so much in this and got nothing. It's like I understand, but I also understand I put myself in the position to become a martyr, to get myself from helping someone out of the kindness of my heart and out of a loving way to now I'm bitter and resentful.
Yeah,
because I let it get too far out of hand.
When you volunteer and you do these things, you don't get to then be resentful of it and then work on then make it like a conditional and transactional love.
Yeah, because like that's the problem is like I had years and time to notice that trend of okay, me doing this doesn't necessarily get anything. I still like doing it.
Yeah,
but like this is a matter of like I think learning what boundaries are.
Well,
like, I'm overextending myself.
So is there an element to you can do these things? I can do these things. I can help you. I can make your day better. I can do whatever I'm doing if it's unconditional and you absolutely, if you do it for the person, not for the reciprocation.
I think, and I think where it blurs the line is if you do it unconditionally and like, I'm not expecting anything back from this.
Right.
But if like I'm noticing that it's a very one-sided thing, like it's like 90-10, I then have a choice to stop giving so much.
Correct.
To let it get to a point where it builds resentment. I can just like notice, like, oh, I'm doing a lot. I can put some boundaries up and like stop being so free giving with my love.
Yeah.
Like I can still do that, but it's like finding because then like you don't want to be that martyr who becomes bitter and resentful over your own kind of kindness. Like you're like a victim of your own kindness at that point. And then you kind of become explosive.
Is there a way to do that without
I think it depends
letting that resentment build?
I think it depends on who you're willing to give your stuff to. If you are people pleasing with someone, I don't want to call people. If you are literally just like loving someone unconditionally, like it depends on who you're giving that love to. So like if you're giving it to someone who is going to take advantage of that, then this is bound to happen at some point.
Right.
I think it's identifying those warning signs in the relationship, the friendship, the business associate you're with, any of these kind of like keeping the relationship horizontal. Because if you keep giving and they just keep taking, it's eventually going to become a vertical relationship.
Right. But like
it's finding a way to keep it the signs and keep it horizontal.
Keep it a partnership.
Yes, because if you keep doing more, you're just kind of you're moving up as they're staying on this axis.
And you're keeping it, and then you're developing that that vertical relationship, that power dynamic.
Yes.
And what you want is a
give and
lateral,
take.
A give and take, a lateral, a partnership.
If you just keep giving, they keep taking. Both of you are creating this vertical relationship. The taker is putting themselves down here, and you are putting yourself up there. But it's like you have to look out for that.
Okay.
So it's the thing where it's on both people. It's like people pleasing. I think people get confused. Think it's like virtuous. Like I'm just this good person who's now being a victim of a bad person. It's like in one sense, but that's you completely negating your role in it. Yeah. Which is that you had a choice from the beginning to notice these signs. You did not do it.
You're allowed to do good things for people in your life.
This is not to say This is not to become bitter and resentful. Like, fuck it, I'm not giving anything. It's like,
no, you're allowed to
identify
good things and show love and acts of service.
But you have to determine where your boundaries go and who you're willing to like bend over backwards for, and who you're not going to.
So is it my fault if I'm giving and giving and ignoring red flags and ignoring how the dynamic is developing.
It means you're complicit. It doesn't mean that person's like absolved of their role in it.
Right, but it's
like you are complicit.
You're hurting yourself.
Yeah, you're complicit in this. It doesn't mean you're just this like blameless victim.
Okay.
I wish I knew.